Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually, as you know, we're wading through these massive stacks of nonfiction here.
Right.
We're talking dense biographies of political figures, scientific journals about quantum mechanics, historical analyses of the Industrial Revolution. The heavy stuff.
Yeah, the kind of stuff that usually requires a highlighter and a really stiff cup of coffee just to get through.
Exactly. A quiet room and a lot of patience. But today we're taking a pretty sharp left turn.
We are.
We're looking at a piece of fiction, but not just any fiction. We're diving into a short story by the thriller giant David Baldacci titled No Time Left. And before you ask no, we haven't abandoned our mission to make you smarter or to find those golden nuggets and insight.
Not at all. Actually, I'd argue this might be one of the most intellectually dense pieces we've ever covered, specifically because of how deceptive it is.
Deceptive is the perfect word for it.
Right. Because on the surface, if you just read the summary, it looks like a standard airport thriller. You know, the exact type.
Yeah.
A cold-blooded hitman, a poisoned umbrella, a mysterious, wealthy client.
It feels like a James Bond movie opening sequence.
It really does. But when you peel back the layers, and I mean really dig into what Baldacci is doing,
Yeah.
here we are looking at a complete masterclass in psychology, the physics of time, historical causality, and ultimately the crushing weight of ancestry.
It's a Trojan horse. You open the gates for this slick spy story, and out pours a Greek tragedy about the grandfather paradox and the nature of fate.
That is exactly how to frame it. It transforms from a procedural crime story into a sci-fi nightmare so seamlessly that you almost don't realize it's happening until the trap is already snapped shut.
So here is our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to unpack this mind bender. We're going to deconstruct the protagonist, Frank Becker, a man who is a fixer in every sense of the word. We'll analyze the very specific, almost scientific tradecraft he uses. We'll look at the historical context of the 1950s versus the 2000s. And then we are going to try and wrap our heads around an ending that quite literally erases the entire conversation we're about to have.
It's a story about a man who prides himself on absolute control, controlling his environment, his biochemistry, his victims.
Yeah.
And he gets thrust into a situation where he has absolutely no agency whatsoever.
Right.
It is about the collision of the past and the present and what happens when you try to sever your own roots.
And a fair warning for anyone listening right now, we are going to completely spoil the ending. We kind of have to.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
The entire structural integrity of the analysis hinges on the final paragraph. So if you want the pure, unadulterated experience, go read No Time Left right now. It's short, then come back. But if you're ready to get your brain twisted, stick around.
Let's dive in.
All right, let's start with the profile. We really need to understand who we are dealing with here. Frank Becker.
Frank Becker. If you were walking down a busy city street, you wouldn't just ignore him. You wouldn't even register that he occupies space. And that is exactly the point. Baldacci spends a lot of time establishing Becker's blandness.
Yeah, bland is his weapon.
Exactly. He is described as a small man, trim, methodical. He wears suits that are expensive but intentionally forgettable. He has these completely everyman features.
Which is the perfect camouflage for a predator. It really reminds me of that concept in espionage, the gray man, the person who is so unmemorable that witnesses can't even describe them 5 minutes later.
Precisely. He's designed to be invisible. But what's fascinating to me isn't his ability to blend in. It's his internal monologue. The source text gives us this window into a massive, yet incredibly fragile ego.
Oh, massive ego.
We learn he was a, quote, fat baby, unquote, who grew into this highly disciplined adult, but inside, he firmly believes he is evolutionarily superior to everyone else around him.
He views normal life with such active disdain. There's a line where he looks at marriage as complicating and children as pointless. He sees human connection as a weakness, almost like a disease he's immune to.
That detachment is the absolute core of his character. He isn't just a hitman because he's good at violence. He's a hitman because he lacks the basic capacity for empathy. He intellectualizes everything to avoid feeling anything. But, and this is the crucial insight, there's a crack in the armor. One weird, highly specific detail that Baldacci gives us right at the very start.
Nostril smoke.
The nostril smoke.
Yeah.
Becker has this bizarre obsession with exhaling cigarette smoke exclusively through his nose.
It seems like such a throwaway detail at first, just a character quirk, right? Like a Bond villain stroking a white cat. But it's totally loaded with backstory, isn't it?
It is the absolute key to his psychology. The text tells us he watched his father do it. Becker's father was a policeman and previously a failed butcher who used to beat him mercilessly. Becker hated the man. Yet he spent his teenage years practicing this smoking technique specifically to mimic him.
That's psychology 101, isn't it? Identification with the aggressor.
It is, but it's more complex than just blind copying.
Hmm.
On one hand, he's copying the only model of masculinity or power he had access to growing up. He's trying to capture the one thing his father did that looked cool or controlled.
Right.
But on the other hand, it really highlights his obsession with mastery. He didn't just copy it, he practiced until he got it perfect. He took something associated with his abuser and mastered it, arguably doing it better than his father ever did.
With a certain style, the story says. It's like he's trying to reclaim his childhood trauma by perfecting a smoke trick. He thinks he's conquering his past, but he's actually just endlessly reenacting it. It's a performance of control over a situation where he had absolutely none as a helpless child.
Exactly. And it's one of the only things that makes him stand out. Everything else about him is bland. The smoke is his flare. It's his ego leaking out through his nose, quite literally. It's the one place where he allows himself to be seen. And it's directly tied to his deepest abuse.
So we meet Becker just as he's about to go to work. And okay, let's unpack the umbrella assassination. Because this isn't just a guy with a gun in a dark alley. This is high art for him.
It's pure theater. He's stalking this wealthy businessman in a city that's making a comeback. The date is really crucial here, and we need to flag it for you listening. May 5th, 2000. Becker is about to turn 50. And he's watching this target, who is everything Becker is not.
Successful, married, philanthropic, loved by his community.
And Becker feels nothing. Complete indifference.
Yeah.
He rationalizes the murder. He thinks about how the man's rituals, like walking the exact same route every day, are asinine. Becker genuinely thinks routine is deadly.
Which is deeply ironic, considering Becker's about to get trapped in the ultimate routine loop.
Well, the irony is thick.
But we'll get there. So there's a crowd, a motorcade is coming through the city, everyone is distracted by the noise and the spectacle, and Becker makes his move.
He uses a modified umbrella.
Which immediately gives me Cold War vibes.
No.
It feels like something straight out of a spy museum in Berlin or something.
That's very intentional. Becker actually references the Bulgarian secret police in the text. He's talking about the real-world assassination of Georgy Markov in London back in 1978.
Right, the BBC broadcaster.
Exactly. They used a tiny ricin pellet fired from a pneumatic mechanism inside an umbrella tip while he was waiting for a bus on Waterloo Bridge. It's legendary tradecraft in the espionage world.
Sure.
But Becker thinks he's classier than the Bulgarians. He looks down on their method.
Because he uses compound 1080?
Right. Sodium fluoroacetate.
Yeah.
This is where the deep dive gets a little technical, but it's totally worth it to understand how Becker's mind works. He doesn't just poison the guy. He intimately understands the biochemistry of what he's doing.
He starts talking about the Krebs cycle. Can you break that down for us without turning this into a high school biology lecture?
Sure. Think of the Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle, as the main engine of your cells. It's how your body takes food and turns it into usable energy. Specifically, a molecule called ATP. It's the furnace inside the mitochondria.
Okay, the powerhouse of the cell.
Exactly. Compound 1080 throws a massive wrench into that furnace. It mimics a compound the body naturally uses, sneaks into the cycle undetected, and then permanently jams the gears. It creates an irreversible blockade.
So he's not just stopping the guy's heart, he's literally turning the guy's lights off cell by agonizing cell.
It is cellular asphyxiation. The cells literally starve to death while simultaneously drowning in unprocessed fuel. And it is incredibly agonizing. The text specifically mentions ventricular arrhythmias. It causes eventual heart failure, but not before hours of excruciating pain, vomiting, and violent seizures. And Becker knows this. He knows there is no known antidote.
That's the part that really gets me. He just walks away coolly, buys a newspaper, reads it on a bench, knowing this man who has done absolutely nothing to him personally is going to die screaming in a few hours, and he feels absolutely zero remorse.
There's a specific line in the text that stands out. Even all-powerful gods bowed before poisons with no known antidotes. It establishes him as a man who firmly believes in science over faith and mechanics over morality. He thinks he is the ultimate power in that equation simply because he holds the umbrella. He has essentially replaced God with chemistry.
So the job is done. The guy dies exactly as planned. Becker gets paid. He's sitting in his pristine apartment, checking his offshore bank account. He's ready to move on. And then he gets a letter.
A physical letter, which in the year 2000 is already a bit archaic for a high-tech hitman who relies on encrypted comms and wire transfers.
And this leads us to the client, Herb Wells. The setting shifts dramatically here. We go from the modern, concrete, city making a comeback vibe to this vintage estate near the water.
The atmosphere changes completely. We move from steel and glass to lichen-covered ashlar coins, Doric columns, and the heavy smell of old leather and candle wax. It's a massive sensory shift that signals to the reader that we are leaving the modern world behind.
It feels like stepping into a private library from the 19th century, and Herb Wells fits right in.
He really does. He's described as cadaverous, a horseshoe of white hair, false teeth, wearing ancient tweeds and a waistcoat with a heavy gold watch chain. He looks like a man completely out of time, like he's been perfectly preserved in that library for 100 years.
And the dialogue between them is so remarkably strange. Wells is oddly calm. He refuses to write down the name of the target. He says it will come by post.
And when Becker questions him about using the word post versus mail, Wells just brushes it off. You call it one thing and I another, but it means the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the very first hint that they aren't speaking the exact same language, temporally speaking. Wells is using the vocabulary of a bygone era.
And the name, Herb Wells. Come on, that has to be a giant neon sign.
It's a massive wink to the reader. H.G. Wells, the author of The Time Machine. Baldacci is telling us right there, hey, stop thinking about spy thrillers, put on your sci-fi hat.
But Becker doesn't catch it at all. He just thinks it's an eccentric old rich guy.
Becker is way too arrogant to catch it. He just sees a massive paycheck, $100,000. He misses the literary reference entirely because he probably thinks fiction is a complete waste of time. He deals in harsh realities, or so he thinks.
But then we get the handshake. It's such a pivotal moment. Wells aggressively insists on a handshake, flesh to flesh.
And Becker strongly resists. He wears these expensive, custom black leather gloves constantly. The text says it's vanity, but it's clearly much more than that. It's concealment. He wants to separate himself from the dirty world he touches. But Wells insists. So Becker finally takes off the glove, and we see the deformity.
4 fingers in the right hand, no index finger, just a small nodule of dead bone.
This is a crucial detail for 2 distinct reasons. First, the pure mechanics of his job. This totally explains why Becker is a master of poisons and blades. He literally cannot pull a trigger.
Oh, right.
He physically cannot use the most common tool of his trade. He can't wrap a trigger finger around a standard trigger guard.
Which ironically forces him to be more intimate with his kills. He desperately wants to be detached, but he has to get close enough to stab a guy or poke him with an umbrella strictly because of his hand.
Exactly. He is forced into physical proximity by his own biology. But the second reason is the origin of the defect. It's a genetic defect, inherited directly from his mother.
The mother he never even knew.
The mother who supposedly died in childbirth. That's the story he was told his whole life. So this missing finger is the absolute only physical connection he has to the woman who gave him life. It is a very visible mark of his origin, and he hides it under a $200 glove. He's hiding his basic humanity.
Do you think Wells knew about the hand beforehand?
Oh, absolutely. No question. Wells says, I feel so much better now right after seeing the hand. He wasn't checking for a hidden wire or a sleeve weapon. He was checking for the missing finger. He needed to confirm that this was the real Frank Becker, the specific carrier of that genetic defect.
That gives me literal chills. It's like checking the serial number on a weapon before you buy it.
Or checking a very specific postmark on a package before you mail it. He needed to make 100% sure he was sending the right agent into the field.
So Becker ignores the weirdness and takes the job. He gets the letter a few days later with the travel instructions. He packs his bag, grabs his custom 6-inch knife, and heads down to the train station.
And here we go, the threshold. This is exactly where the genre finally breaks completely.
The train ride. He boards a modern high-speed train. He's moving fast. He enters a long, dark tunnel, and then he falls asleep.
Which, again, Baldacci notes is highly unusual. Becker is usually completely pumped on adrenaline before a job. He says he gets a natural high from it, even better than sex. He thrives on the anticipation of the kill. But here, he just passes out. It's an unnatural, heavy sleep.
It's the transition, it's the wormhole, because when he finally wakes up, the entire world has changed.
The soundscape changes first. Before he even opens his eyes, he hears the heavy, rhythmic bellows of a steam engine.
And he thinks, why is the train making that noise? Did the engine blow? He's still actively trying to frame the situation in modern logical terms.
Right. His brain is searching for mechanical failure. And then the visuals hit him. He steps off the train, and the sleek, high-speed bullet train is totally gone. It's a massive diesel model now, something that belongs in a transportation museum. It's clunky, it's loud, it's intensely mechanical, and the people on the platform...
The fashion is a dead giveaway.
It's completely immersive. Boaties, wide lapels, bowlers and straw hats, women walking around in pleated skirts and pointed hats. Kids playing with wooden yo-yos on the platform.
And the tech is completely gone. No cell phones anywhere, no Blackberries, no iPods with white earbuds.
Becker notices the stark absence of technology almost immediately. It's a form of sensory deprivation for a thoroughly modern man. He feels exposed, naked without his digital tether. He's so used to having global information at his fingertips, and suddenly he is entirely cut off from the grid.
But the real clincher is the newspaper stand. He walks over, buys a paper, hands the guy a $1 bill, and gets 90 cents back in change.
The inflation check. A dollar went a very long way back in 1950.
And the headline:
North Korea invades South Korea. President Truman pledges support.
late June 1950.
He's traveled exactly 50 years back in time. Remember, the date of the umbrella kill at the start of the story was May 2000.
And his own birthday is in May. He had just turned 50 years old.
So he has traveled back to the exact year of his own birth.
Becker's reaction here is truly fascinating to me. A normal person would completely lose their mind. They'd scream, they'd run around grabbing people by the lapels, asking what year it is. Becker, he just gets a tiny twitch in his temple.
That's it, a microscopic tick in a blood vessel.
Yeah.
He definitely feels the panic rising, but he clamps it down with that insane iron discipline of his. He rationalizes it almost immediately. He thinks, okay, somehow I'm in the past. I'll just do the job, collect the money, then I'll get back on this train and go through the tunnel again.
He literally treats time travel like a missed subway stop. Oh, I took the wrong line. I'll just do this errand and loop back to the year 2000.
It shows the absolute depths of his arrogance. He really thinks he can navigate any environment, no matter how impossible. He thinks the fundamental rules of physics will just bend back for him if he just completes the contract. He's a professional. Professionals finish the job. He believes that if he executes his function as a killer, the universe will reward him by putting him back in his proper box.
So he commits to the mission. He navigates to this small village. He finds the target's house perfectly.
A quaint little cottage. Weathered clapboard, gingerbread trim. It is idyllic. There are flowers everywhere, zinnias, geraniums. It's the absolute picture of mid-century innocence.
And foxglove.
Of course, the foxglove. Becker spots the foxglove in the garden and immediately thinks, digitalis. He sees the lethal poison potential right there in the garden. Even in paradise, he only sees death. He can't turn off the killer brain for a single second. He looks at a beautiful flower and sees a tool for cardiac arrest.
He checks the door, and it's unlocked.
Because it's 1950 in a tiny, trusting village. People didn't lock their doors back then. Becker enters silently. He creeps through the parlor. He smells something simmering on the stove. He's moving steadily toward the bedroom.
And then he catches his own reflection.
This is such a powerful, telling moment. He sees himself in a mirror on the wall. And the text says his eyes look swollen to unnatural size, as though the enormity of the deed to come had filled them like hot gas.
He is genuinely spooked.
He is. For the very first time in the story, he looks unsettled. Becker is a coward, really, deep down. He basically admits it earlier. He likes attacking from behind in a crowd. He likes poison that takes hours to work. He absolutely hates direct confrontation. But here, in this quiet house, he has to face the victim head-on. And seeing himself in that mirror, in that innocent time period, I think some part of his subconscious was violently screaming at him. He was seeing a monster in a world that didn't really have monsters like him yet.
But he pushes that feeling down. He grips his knife. He enters the bedroom, and there she is.
The target. A young woman, only 19 years old, sitting peacefully in a chair, knitting.
And she turns and looks right at him.
And she's not afraid.
That part always gets me. A strange, intense man walks into her private bedroom holding a 6-inch blade. And she doesn't even scream.
It deeply unnerves him. He's so used to terror. He expects panic and begging. Her utter calmness completely disrupts his rhythm. He just wants to get it over with now. So he strikes.
And it is brutal.
It is intensely brutal. It's not the clean, distant, chemical death of the umbrella hit. He stabs her violently in the chest and the neck. It's visceral. There's blood everywhere. It's a messy, intimate, violent act. He is physically wrestling with the life leaving her body.
And as she's dying, the details finally start to click into place for him.
The true horror sets in. First, he looks around the room as she's bleeding out. He sees a heavy leather apron hanging on the wall. A butcher's apron.
And he remembers his father was butcher before he became a cop.
The connection fires in his brain. But that's still not enough to stop him. Then, he looks back down at the dying woman. He really looks at her.
He looks at her hand.
Her right hand. He lifts it up to the light coming through the window. And he finally sees it.
The missing finger.
The exact same genetic deformity. The small nodule of dead bone, exactly where the index finger should be.
And suddenly the, quote, genetic defect inherited from his mother, unquote, isn't just a dry medical fact from his past. It's a real-time revelation.
He realizes exactly who she is. This isn't just a random target on a contract. This 19-year-old girl is his mother.
And then he looks down at her belly.
She's pregnant, heavily pregnant.
And lying there on her lap, covered in blood, the knitting.
A tiny blue cap, hand-knitted for a baby boy.
Oh, man, the pieces just slammed together with such force. He's the baby.
He is the baby in that belly. He has traveled back 50 years to 1950, the exact year of his birth, and brutally murdered his own mother while he was still gestating inside the womb.
Which means
he has just committed the ultimate reality-breaking suicide.
the story literally ends with him slumping to the floor. He thinks he sees his mother smile at him, and then the final line. A moment later, he was gone.
Gone. Not dead. Gone. Completely erased from existence.
Let's just sit with that for a second. This is the ultimate expression of the grandfather paradox.
It is the absolute classic grandfather paradox. If you go back in time and kill your grandfather, or in this specific case, your mother before you were born, then you were never born. But if you were never born, you can't possibly exist to go back in time to kill her. So how did she die?
My brain hurts just trying to track the loop. It's a logic puzzle that completely breaks reality.
Baldacci doesn't even try to solve the physics of it, which is a smart narrative choice. He goes straight for the instant erasure route. The temporal loop closes violently, and Becker simply ceases to exist. He is wiped from the timeline entirely.
So let's unpack the big why here. Why did this happen? Who the hell is Herb Wells?
That is the million-dollar question for anyone reading this.
Is he God? Is he the devil? Is he some sort of interdimensional time cop?
There are a few really interesting ways to read it. If we look strictly at the text, Wells is clearly an agent of something. Order, maybe. Fate. He definitely knew about the finger. He knew Becker was literally the only person who could do this specific job.
But why? Why did it have to be Becker doing the killing?
Think about the suicide aspect of the paradox. Wells tells Becker in the library, a woman needs to be taken care of. He sends Becker to do it. But by sending Becker, he absolutely ensures that Becker is never born in the first place. It's a retroactive abortion. It's an execution of a man who arguably shouldn't exist, or whose existence has caused entirely too much damage to the timeline.
So maybe Wales is a future version of someone Becker hurt, like a relative of the umbrella guy. Or maybe he's just a cosmic janitor cleaning up a mess in the universe.
There's a very compelling meta-theory that Wells is actually a stand-in for the author. I mean, think about the name. H.G. Wells. He's the literal creator of the time travel narrative. In a meta sense, the client is the author. He's writing Becker out of the story. It's like the author looked at his own incredibly dark character and said, "You are entirely irredeemable. You lack all humanity. I'm just going to write you out of existence."
Oh, okay, that is deep. I love that reading. But let's look at the psychological angle, too. You mentioned much earlier that Becker is a direct product of his father's severe abuse.
Deeply. Becker absolutely hates his father. He implies he might have even killed his father, or at least viciously attacked him before running away as a teenager. He built his entire adult life as a reaction to his father. The smoking, the detachment, the calculated violence, the obsessive control.
But in the very end, who does he actually destroy? His mother.
Exactly. The one and only true connection he had left in the world. The literal source of his life. He travels back to the source and destroys it with his own hands. It's a massive tragic irony. He spent his entire life trying to be hard and untouchable like his father, and that specific hardness is exactly what led him to blindly kill the only part of himself that was innocent, his unborn self and his mother.
It's the ultimate closed cycle of violence. The abuse creates a monster. The monster travels back and destroys his own origin, erasing the monster.
And notice the profound irony of his sweating the details philosophy. The very first line of the story is about how Becker prides himself on sweating the details in order to survive.
And he missed the single biggest detail of all.
He didn't know his own history. He didn't know what his own mother looked like. He didn't know the exact year he was born, or at least he didn't connect the obvious dots when he saw the 1950 newspaper date. He was so hyper-focused on the how of the kill the knife, the train schedule, the offshore money, that he completely missed the who.
He was technically proficient, but entirely spiritually blind.
Perfectly put. He could recite the exact chemical composition of compound 1080 and its effect on the Krebs cycle, but he couldn't recognize his own mother's face sitting right in front of him.
And that physical deformity, the finger, it's such a brilliant, tight plot device. Because without it, the final reveal just doesn't work.
It's the physical proof. It's his genetic destiny made visible. He carries the mark of his mother right there on his hand, the exact hand he uses to violently take life.
Hmm.
And in the very end, that defective hand is the only thing that allows him to recognize her.
But just seconds too late?
Seconds too late to stop the bleeding.
There's something deeply unsettling about the client, Wells, demanding to shake that hand, flesh to flesh.
It was a ritual. Wells was sealing the cosmic contract. He wasn't just hiring a hitman, he was officially closing a loop. He needed to physically touch the defect to confirm the timeline was correcting itself. It's almost exactly like he was checking the serial number on a faulty product right before throwing it into the incinerator.
That is a really harsh way to put it, but entirely accurate. Becker was a faulty product of humanity.
He really was. He was a man with zero connections. No wife, no kids, no friends, no empathy. He contributed absolutely nothing to the world but cold, calculated death. Maybe the universe just collectively decided it was time to hit undo on his life.
No time left? The title makes so much more sense now.
It works beautifully on two levels. He has no time left to live, obviously, but also there's literally no time left for him. The entire timeline has been violently erased.
I want to go back to the 1950 setting for just a moment. Baldacci paints this really vivid, idyllic picture. The flowers, the unlocked door, the quiet knitting in the afternoon.
It contrasts so sharply with the year 2000 setting at the beginning of the story. The 2000 setting is incredibly cold. Steel, concrete, crowded, noisy streets, high-tech poison umbrellas. The 1950 setting is quiet, pastoral, natural.
But violence still invades it.
Becker invades it. He is the literal contamination bleeding in from the future. He brings the cold, mechanized, calculated violence of the 21st century directly into this innocent mid-century world.
But wait, the violence was already there, wasn't it? The butcher's apron, his father.
That's a great point. The butcher's apron was already hanging on the wall. The father was already in the picture, presumably out working at the shop. The very violence that would eventually shape Becker into a killer was already waiting for him in that house. Becker just, well, he accelerated the process. Or rather, he violently ended it before it could even begin.
Because if he kills his mother, the father never gets the chance to beat him. The father never gets to become a better cop, taking his anger out on his fat baby.
Exactly. The abuse never happens. The hitman is never created. All those murders Becker committed in the future timeline, they never happen. The guy with the umbrella in May 2000, he never dies. He gets to go home to his family.
So, by killing his own mother, Becker actually miraculously saves everyone he ever killed in his career.
In a very twisted way, yes. It's a perverse form of cosmic redemption. By entirely canceling his own existence, he retroactively undoes all the terrible harm he caused the world.
That is just mind-blowing. It makes Becker a weird sort of sacrificial lamb, even if he absolutely didn't mean to be one.
And that's exactly where the massive question of free will comes into play. Did Becker ever actually have a choice? Or was he always, from the moment he was born, destined to get on that train and erase himself?
Will seemed to think it was totally inevitable. What will be, will be.
Right. It feels exactly like a Greek tragedy. Like Oedipus Rex. You try so hard to avoid your terrible fate, and in doing so, you run right straight into it. Becker tried to be the ultimate autonomous man, answering to no one, totally off the grid. And he ended up being nothing more than a puppet in an unavoidable time loop.
I'm still really stuck on the image of the mother smiling at the very end. Why do you think she smiled?
That is easily the most ambiguous and debated part of the text. Baldacci writes, he thought he saw his mother smile. It could just be a hallucination as his oxygen-deprived brain shuts down. Or maybe she recognized him in some deep, inexplicable, maternal, instinctive way. Or maybe it was a smile of pure forgiveness.
Or maybe she was just smiling at her baby, the one safely in her belly, not the terrifying man with the knife standing over her.
That's probably the most heartbreaking interpretation possible. She wasn't seeing the brutal killer ending her life. She was just feeling the comforting movement of the child inside her. The exact same child who is currently killing her from the outside. The layers of tragedy there are incredibly dense.
It really is a massive departure from the usual good guy with a gun thriller that you might expect.
It shows that Baldacci can really flex some entirely different narrative muscles. He takes all the standard tropes, the stoic killer, the mysterious wealthy client, the impossible mission, and completely twists them into a philosophical pretzel.
So what is the ultimate takeaway here for us, aside from, don't take high-paying jobs from guys named H.G. Wells?
I think the biggest takeaway is fundamentally about connection and history. Becker was utterly destroyed specifically because he was disconnected. He intentionally cut ties with his humanity, his family, his past. He really thought he could live in a safe vacuum of pure professionalism.
But the past is always there waiting.
The past is never dead. It's not even past, as Faulkner said. Becker tried to completely ignore his origins, and they rose up and swallowed him whole. You absolutely cannot outrun where you come from.
And also, the danger of sweating the details. He focused on all the wrong details.
He's focused entirely on the cold mechanics of death, not the messy mechanics of life. He knew exactly how to kill, but he didn't know who he was.
That's really powerful. It's a stark warning against that kind of hyper-efficient, soulless, modern existence. You can be the absolute best in the world at your specific job, but if you don't know who you are or where you come from, you're just blindly walking into a trap.
A trap of your own making, essentially.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I have to ask you personally. If you were Frank Becker, at what specific point would you have bailed on the contract?
Oh, the moment I saw the diesel train on the platform.
Yeah.
No question.
Really? Not the weird flesh-to-flesh handshake in the creepy library?
I mean, the handshake was weird, sure, but the train. When the physical reality of the world fundamentally changes around you, that's when you drop the knife and run the other way. But Becker just couldn't do it. His massive ego wouldn't let him back down. He genuinely thought he could conquer 1950 just like he conquered the year 2000.
And that was his ultimate fatal flaw. Hubris.
Hubris. Plain and simple. The downfall of every tragic hero, or in this case, anti-hero.
Well, this has been an incredibly wild ride today. From a high-tech, poisoned umbrella in a modern city to a bloody cottage in 1950. A loop that perfectly and violently closes on itself.
It's definitely a story that stays with you long after you read it. It makes you look down at your own hands a little differently.
It really does. And it leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on as we head out.
It certainly does.
Here it is for you listening. If you could somehow go back in time and observe your parents before you were born, really see them, not as your mom and dad, but as young people, as complete strangers navigating the world, would you even recognize them? Or are we ultimately strangers to our own origins? Becker looked his own mother right in the face and saw only a target on a contract. How well do you really know the people who made you?
That is a deeply haunting question to leave on.
Go look at some old photo albums tonight, folks. Study the faces of your family. Make sure you actually know who they are. Because as Frank Becker learned the hard way, ignoring your history can literally be fatal.
Indeed it can.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll see you next time. Hopefully still in the present tense.
Hopefully.
Bye for now.